Hi, I'm Tim Perry. I am the editor of justwoodbury.com, and I'm with...
Hi, I'm Dr. Anna, Superintendent of Schools of Region 14.
And we're here today to talk about the 2018-2019 proposed budget, which will be going to, you can tell me tonight, goes to the
Board of Education tonight for review and approval. And then it will go out to referendum the beginning of May.
And that's May 8th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Dr. Anna, a couple of questions that we have for you. On paper, the first thing people look at is it's a 2.37 increases being proposed.
Right.
So to the naked eye, it's kind of a surprise, but, and there may be people who just look at that number and say, I'm going to vote no. But what are the reasons that voters need to listen to what's in the budget as opposed to just going right up there and voting no?
Right. So thanks, Tim. Actually, there are some great programming and dreams that we're hoping for kids baked into the 2.37% increase. Just as a side note, a little over 2% of that, about 2.1, is related to contractual obligations, so an increase in salaries and benefits. And as we always do year after year in Region 14, we look for, while we're adding programs, we look for offsets. So that is not just a total add. So if you review the budget or the presentation that is available online, you will see that we have some goals to accomplish in the areas of social, emotional, mental health supports for kids. We have some initiatives in the area of math and science, and some work at the middle school that we're going to be taking on, and then continuous work in the arts. I will tell you, though, if you take a look at the budgets comprehensively over the course of the last 4 years, you will see great strides made in the areas of curriculum. We came into Region 14 not having a Board of Education approved curriculum back in 2014. And so what we will find by the end of this budget, as it is implemented, we would have about 81% of our curriculum developed and approved through the Board of Education, which is a huge, huge goal to have met by the end of this proposed budget. We also see that we have been able to bring in our transition services back to the community. So preschools are at their respective elementary schools, and we have accomplished the 18 to 21 transition program, bringing that back home. We've also made great strides in the area of social emotional well-being of our kids, but we need to continue to invest in that. We've established a human resources department that, while growing programs, we've been able to cut a little over 21 FTE positions. That is a response to being more efficient with our resources. And then finally, in the aggregate, you will see some great accomplishments in the area of Teacher Leadership Academy that we do in partnership with UConn. So I would love to jump into some of the details of the budget with you.
Sure. You know, one of the things that you mentioned was the social and well-being of the kids.
Yeah.
The same time, I noticed that in there, it looks kind of like a restructure of the student support services. What does that involve? Explain what that involves and if that's an offset of some kind or if that's an additional investment.
Right, good question, and we're spending a lot of time taking a look at the social emotional well-being of our kids and how we can better support them starting in preschool and then developing a progression, a trajectory of support through 12th grade. And so in doing so, we're looking at reorganizing the supports that are provided by social workers and introducing the support of school counselors at the elementary school. So here's an offset example. Then instead of just adding on a counselor to the elementary school, we are removing the social workers from the elementary schools and adding school counselors who will provide general supports to all students. So this foundation, if you will, of supports in problem solving, decision making, how to get along with others, how to work through disagreements, life skills, social skills. So starting in preschool, we will have a developmental guidance curriculum, that will be built all the way through, at the very least, 8th grade, and then into the career and college planning in 9th through 12th. We will continue to have social work support, starting formally in preschool, but our full-time social workers will be in the middle school and the high school, and then we will have a floating social worker that could serve the elementary schools as well. but district-wide and during off hours for families to have access to. And so that is really the restructuring. We will still have full-time supports for all kids, pre-K through 12. It'll just be under different titles and roles and responsibilities.
The guidance, you mentioned guidance counselor at the elementary school. Is that what?
School counselor.
School counselor. Are you looking at one person for Mitchell, one person for Bethlehem, or is it one person who would be at both
One
schools?
person each at each school.
Each school.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another thing I noticed underneath the teaching and learning, there is some addition and subtraction there. Looking to add culinary to Woodbury Middle School. Some people may look at that and be like, wait a minute, but you're getting rid of STEAM and you're reducing world languages. But what came to those decisions to kind of make a little bit of a switch there?
So good question, and I think it's important for us to have further dialogue with our community about the middle school changes. So one, I'll just roll it back to there will be a change in the middle school schedule for next year. Actually, we have a parent meeting that we'll be announcing the evening of Tuesday, April 24th to learn more about the middle school schedule. So we invite everyone to come out. We are looking at increasing instructional time. So that's the key. We're increasing instructional time. Right now we're averaging about 40 minutes per core area, and on Wednesdays 37 minutes. So we're going to prioritize instructional time going from 40 minutes to 50 minutes per core area. Core area meaning English language arts, math, science, social studies in grades 6, 7, and then in 8th grade world language. So that is the impact on world language. You know, a couple years ago, we opened up access to our young people in middle school about mathematics. So we brought pre-algebra and algebra further down into the middle school because we heard that our kids wanted more challenge. We saw that evidenced through assessments. So we brought the rigor down to a younger age. And we learned that our kids rise to the expectations. So we wanted to do the same for world language. We had a world language curriculum, a one-year high school curriculum that was implemented to middle schoolers over the course of 2 years, 7th and 8th. Well, we know that our children can handle the rigor of 1 year's worth of curriculum in 1 year. So we decided to put world language into 8th grade, offering Spanish and French. We did make a change in our decision based on parent feedback in that area. So we're offering both Spanish and French. But we're offering our middle schoolers 1 year's worth of work for 1 year's worth of credit. While I would agree with community members that we'd like to introduce world language at a much younger age, like starting in preschool, that would be fantastic. And yes, that is in one of my buckets for the future, bringing world language in at a younger age. Right now, we need to prioritize having more instructional time for the English language arts, math, science, and social science for 6th and 7th graders based on what we know about our students' needs. So that is not technically a reduction because our students are seeing 1 year's worth of curriculum and 1 year's worth of work instead of over 2 years. We're also making some other changes. Because of our new math and science curriculum, we've been able to put, and the music curriculum that's going forward tonight at the Board of Ed and the art curriculum for next year, we're able to put the standards and skills that we're covering in the STEAM class back into the curriculum. So rather than offering STEAM moving forward, one of our desires is to offer culinary, and our kids have told us that. They want to take culinary class. And that is a career pathway that we'd like to introduce to our children a little earlier. So we're going to start that in 6th grade starting next year.
Currently, is that something that just starts in high school, like starts freshman year, sophomore year?
Yes,
freshman year?
Freshman year. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, great. One of the things too, I know you mentioned French and Spanish as languages. Are there other options, or are there other languages you guys are thinking maybe down the road? Are you guys looking at Mandarin Chinese or anything like that? Any of these future languages?
Right. So we are exploring more of our options online. So at the high school, our goal is to grow the world language department. I know there's some misunderstanding around that we're trying to reduce it. But in the following years, we're offering Spanish, French, American Sign Language, and Latin online. There's some questions around why did Italian get removed. It was simply because of student enrollment. In the entire Italian program, levels 1 through 4, we had 9 students select Italian this past year in levels 3 and 4. So we are trying to respond to student enrollment and be efficient with our resources. What we see in the future is to use our lessons learned from Italian online and Latin online to actually open up access to many more languages. And we do foresee adding Mandarin and German. We did survey our students. We surveyed local businesses and community colleges and universities to investigate what languages are most common and useful. Based on all that, we have landed on those decisions for next year, and then as well as growing the program in the future. So I would love to see one day in Region 14, if there are 2 students, say you and I, Tim, decide that we want to take Japanese, that we'll be able to offer it even though there are only 2 students, because there will be an online offering that would allow them to earn high school credit that are recognized by colleges and universities. So we'd really like to grow the world language program.
You went on a whirlwind tour. You might as well have had a bus going around Woodbury and Bethlehem with all the meetings you went to, all the groups you stopped by and visited.
Yeah.
With that, what kind of feedback has there been from you? I mean, you're going to meet the yes people, you're going to meet the no people,
Yeah.
but what overall was the feelings? Do you feel that this budget will be able to pass as is in the first try?
Well, that's always a challenge and a question, so I'm not going to put any bets on that this year, as I would in any other year, would not. So this is what I have heard, the community saying this is a fair budget, that there are some programming that we did not pursue last year because of the change in funding from the governor that we brought back to try to pursue this year. There are improvements being made in the budget that responsive to student needs, community feedback. So I've heard overall that it's a fair budget. Particularly, the impact on mill rate is very different this year than previous years. Up in Bethlehem, it certainly is a higher mill rate increase than has been experienced in the past. But in Woodbury, it's actually reduction in mill rate. So if this budget is passed in full, Woodbury residents would see a reduction in their taxes, and of course Bethlehem would see an increase in their taxes. So it is a little bit of a different scenario this year as far as impact on mill rate. So I am sensitive to the communities with that fact.
Okay. All right. Dr. Anna, thank you so much for talking to me today about the budget. Again, I'm Tim Perry, justwoodbury.com. Dr. Anna Cutaia,
Thank you.
Region 14 Superintendent of Schools.